Welcome back to Just Checks Out. I am Jess, and today we'll be checking out my anticipated reads from January to March. And I'm doing that on purpose because, quite frankly, I don't have time to put like a 45-minute video out, and I don't think you have time to watch that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down every quarter. So I'm not going to be talking about the dates when these come out, just the months, because as we know, those can change very quickly, and I don't really want to have to deal with that on the off chance it changes and have to put all this information when this goes up about how it's changed. So just month-wise, we know what's going on, okay? All right. So first up, we have January. And one of the January ones has already gone through, and that is the Bandit Queens, which is about husband disposal and a vanishing spouse. You know, you got my interest. I grew up with a woman who very much enjoyed her independence after being in a relationship with someone who was not so great, and this kind of stuff really calls to me, I guess you could say. I'm not even entirely sure what you can see on my shelf. Okay. I'm just seeing it in the background. Alright. And I appreciate this. It's set in India. I'm trying to diversify what I read as well, like the geodiversity of where I'm reading. So that kind of hits that goal for me this year. But also, the cover is just really cool, to be honest, and I love that. It's very easier for me to enjoy something like that, so I can't wait to see what's going to go on. I don't like descriptions, honestly, because I think it tells you too much about the story, so I honestly go in half the time not knowing the entire blurb, just here and there, just to kind of see what's up, what's going on, stuff like that. And I love a good, woman kind of going, against the grain story. That's kind of always been my jam, no matter what genre, so I'm definitely interested in this. It seems to be lit fic, and that could be pretty interesting, or general fic, however you want to put it. It could be very interesting, though. And then the other one that's coming out in January is Spare by Prince Harry. Now, when this goes up, a lot of information will have already gone through because this should be going up like right before it debuts, but things leak out all the time. I am interested in this not because of the salacious gossip, but because I think that we often have a tendency to idealize positions of power, right? And I think that whether what he says is something we want to hear or not, I think that it's important to find that balance between the two. So this is going to be very interesting to me. And by the way, if you hear anything in the background, it's because my daughter, again, these are Sunday things that I do, and my husband is taking care of her, and she's a baby. So you're going to hear her in the background sometimes. I explained this in another video, but the way our house is set up, it goes hallway, living room, bedroom. So there's no separation between the spaces. Like there's no wall there to kind of dampen it a little bit. Then in February, we have three. Sorry, I've been watching way too much Sesame Street lately. Okay, so you have Your Driver is Waiting, which is kind of billed as a queer feminist retelling of Taxi, which intrigues me because I've actually never seen Taxi. I honestly kind of don't like a lot of I'm not really a Robert De Niro fan, which just kind of puts me in a weird space, I think. But I don't find him particularly intriguing. I don't find Pacino either. Like they're not that's not my jam when I'm watching a movie. And so I've never actually seen Taxi, so this could be very interesting. I'm interested in seeing how they're going to take this, and maybe I'll see it afterwards, kind of balance out, and then I can compare and contrast. And then I really want to read the next book, which is Venco, which is a fantasy adventure where a young Metis, I think you say so, woman finds a spoon that can return glory to an old society. That's my summation of it. But basically, she finds this spoon, and it has this ability to kind of create a whole new world of what we know, right? And I like this because there's an indigenous element to it, because we often don't read about that when we read American and Canadian type literature. We don't acknowledge it that much. It's getting, thanks to places like BookTube and stuff, we're getting a lot better about that, but it still could be better still, right? So I'm appreciating that factor of it. And honestly, like that's all I needed to know to be intrigued by it, to be honest. Because, dude, it's a spoon and it's a hidden society and it could be found. I'm there. And then the last one is actually one that Laura at a book circus had on her list, but I wasn't sure if it actually made it on mine, but it did. Because I wrote this list like weeks ago. And it was A Spell of Good Things, which is set in modern Nigeria. And its powerful families battle each other in all things, including obsession. It sounds like a soap opera. Oh, I'm there. Like I talked about this in the Happy Holidays video, which has got like, the two Victorian whatever. I love a good soap opera. I love it. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in America. If I didn't love soap operas, there was something wrong with me. Oh. I actually wrote a paper on Samantha Brady, Sammy Brady from Days of Our Lives, and how her relationships were kind of borked, how it made a very bad relationship foundation for her. Okay, but that's it. That's like February is done. The first 2 months don't have a lot coming out that I'm really overly interested in. Now March has got like 5 things. It actually has 7 things, but 2 of them were HarperCollins. And I'm going to say this in everything when I talk about HarperCollins. I would like to support HarperCollins, but I don't know which imprints, whatever I can support. So I've kind of like taken things off the list for now because I don't know which ones to support and not support. There's been a lot of confusion about that because some areas can unionize, some cannot, so forth, which is just silly to me, considering, HarperCollins is a large company. The people want $5,000 more a year, $5,000. You're hiring people to take the place of this. You're losing money because the relationships are not going to be down the way it should, so therefore you're not going to have the same relationship with the characters and the worlds and the writers and all this kind of stuff. And so it's very bad business in my opinion. And I mention that because it's becoming very difficult to know which ones I can support and not support. So I took off. There's a Jennifer Eastep book, and there's which is the end of a trilogy I really want to finish because I love Jennifer Eastep. And there's also Grey Mist Fair, I think, yes. So those are ones I want to talk about, but I cannot, and that breaks my heart because they both are such huge, important ones that I want to talk about. They're actually like a big part of this list, but I had to take them off. So, yeah. All right. So first up we have What Happened to Ruthy Ramirez, which is why does Ruthy appearing as Ruby on reality affect her family after 12 years of her disappearing, and what are we learning and not learning about the generational issues and the sibling issues and the familial issues. And I love deep dives into families. Like I love family dramas, again, soap operas, but also just if you've had a complex family, you know how you can connect so much better with a story sometimes if you can follow that logic. So I'm really interested in this one. And then you have uh, the next new Syrian girl, which is a YA set in Detroit, where a Syrian and a Syrian American girls discover love and finding their place. And I think that's so important because when we talk about immigration, we often talk about like generationally. So you have like first generation, second generation. Like for me, I am a first generation immigrant here, right? Not a first generation. I'm like the generation element, right? And so my daughter is German, but she's also American. So there are layers and complexities to this, and it's nothing similar to like what the Syrians are going through. I'm not comparing it to that, but I'm saying that it's more nuanced. And if you've been in that situation, if you've been an immigrant, then you understand just how nuanced it can be. And I love that. I am very much looking forward to seeing what's going on with the girls and how they are adjusting. I don't have a ton of YA on my list because honestly, I'm kind of like, I'm way over the YA limit for me personally, for my definitions of it. But there are some YAs that really kind of intrigue me. Like I liked the Henna Wars. I like Scars Like Wings. With the Fire on High, which are all right back there without even thinking about it. but I like them. And so I like books that make me think and consider and look at worlds in a slightly different way, right? So that's on that list. And then we have The Human Origins of Beatrice Porter and Other Essential Ghosts. Whew. So that's the Jamaican Trinidad sisters exploring sibling bonds, sisterhood specifically, and social roles. Again, you can see from my list that this is something that's that's very in my wheelhouse. It's always been in my wheelhouse. Like, there's a reason why when I was 12, I was reading Danielle Steele. And one day I'm going to do that video on that. But anyway, Danielle Steele had that same, like, multi-generational, multi-look at things. But it was very, like, white-centered. And hello, Casper. But I'm trying to look outside of that and see what is really going on, because I think that I'm missing some context clues that I should have as a reader to understand the wider worlds that I'm reading about, outside of even just an insular, like, one fictional world. And it's kind of helping me be empathetic and to learn things by going outside of what I expect things to be, right? Okay. And then you have The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise, which is about a geriatric jewel thief and her young roommate go on an adventure. You got me. I'm so there for this book. This is perfect. Like, I like books that make me explore generational things again, but this is generational in the fact that, like, it's intergenerational because you have a geriatric jewel thief, which makes me think of, Doris, who is wildly famous, currently living in Atlanta, who is known for stealing jewels and diamonds specifically. So I find this to be entertaining, and it's actually built a little bit like Thelma and Louise, and the same adventures I'm going on stuff. But I'm very into it. I'm very excited about it because I'd heard nothing about it before I happened to see it on a list. I was just combing lists trying to find some things I was anticipating this year, because I don't always do these. And like last year, I had a huge list I didn't even get to for the most part. So now I'm just like being very carefully curating what I want to read. And I think it sounds fantastic. I will not read it in the beginning of the year because, like, this plus the last book, like, there's like 4 books coming out on March 28th, and so there's no way I can get to all of them before then. But we'll see. And then the last one is also one that was on Laura's list, and that is A House of Good Bones. I'm very excited about this one because T. Kingfisher is really setting my, like, writing and reading synopsis. I say writing because I like reviewing. Setting it, like, the synopsis on fire, right? Because the way she writes, it's fantastic. She's got this ability to level things out in a way that you are fully invested and you want to know more. And I love that. As a reader, I love that. And, like, she's got this, and this is set in, like, Southern Gothic, which always makes me laugh because, like, most Southern Gothics, everyone thinks is V.C. Andrews, which, granted, but there are other Gothics. I think it's Faith Hunter. No, it's Gwen Hunter. Faith Hunter has another series under Gwen Hunter, and that's the Delaney series. And wow, that one makes, V.C. Andrews look kind of sane. But anyway, but there's that feeling of it. So I'm very interested in knowing what these good bones are, because what are you not telling me? I grew up in the South. Like, I grew up in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I grew up in Georgia specifically, but I went to North Carolina and South Carolina a lot as a child. So there's a lot of feeling there, and I believe this one is set in North Carolina. So totally there. And that's the last of this list for the anticipated reads of Q1. I will have one for Q2, Q3, and Q4 coming up throughout the year. But I am really looking forward to the ones that deal with families and dramas and connection. I think it's because that's just where my mind always goes to be honest. Like, when I'm a character-driven reader, and all these are character-driven plots, like, I'm down for that. So I can't wait to see what's going to come out of it, right? So that is my anticipated readings list of quarter 1. We will see what quarter 2 and 3, 4 have. There is another T. Kingfisher later in the year that will obviously be making the list. But what else is on that list? So I decided to. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.